Puzzle horror? What? That's what Twitch thinks itch is? Indie? Is that a thing? Indie games? Is there such thing? No? What if we search? I guess just art. We just do art. It's really weird to me that. Oh, sorry, your microphone is laying on the on my desk. Thought I had put that up. It's really strange to me that Twitch has so few categories for not normal games. I have to go to. No way. Is that? No way. That is the fastest. That is the absolute fastest Discord has ever announced that I'm streaming. That is wild. That is wild. Well, we're going to hang for a minute. We're going to see who shows up. And then if nobody shows up, I'm going to just treat this like a YouTube video and just go. Time to stream, says Corvidash. Hello. What are you drinking? Just kidding. It's morning there. I'm drinking Bellheimer Edel Export. Looking forward to some snooting. Dude, I love to snoot. I snoot all up and down the street. It's just a constant. It's a constant stream of snooting over here. How's everybody doing? How are the games coming? I'm assuming people are working on their games. Before the jam, I kind of expect it, right? I mean, this is the whole point of the finish it jam, is to finish it, right? So like, just do it. Like, if the only reason why this jam exists is to get people to finish their shit. Picked a point and click game idea. It needs a lot of art. This programmer is drawing a lot. Yeah, I can imagine. Well, I can say definitively that I liked drawing sprites so much more than I liked trying to figure out how to code. Because when I was drawing sprites, sorry, I have to turn my sound on because there could be any moment in which I need to go. Because when I was drawing sprites, I got to like invent little characters, you know, like I would, every little pixel I was like, but if his eyes are here, then he's downcast. He has a problem. But if his eyes are here, right? I really liked, this is kind of like how poetry works. It's a funny thing that like a lot of people, especially in the poetry world, think that like, why are you giving me rules? Like, I don't want rules. Just let me write my shitty poetry with no scheme or plan or point. And then you look at like the older poets and they're like, we love rules. Because it's actually really fun to work within the confines of restriction. And I think that that is a kind of a universal canvas. Like, one of the things I really liked about making sprites for, well, when Two Links had me make sprites, he hasn't made me make sprites in a while, but when he had me make sprites for games, because I was basically useless, like I would finish the narrative in a day, and then and I was like, okay, what do we do now? And he was like, well, you can draw some sprites, I guess. And so I was drawing sprites. I had a lot of fun with that because I got to, like, it's this, what is it, 14 by 14 pixel area in which I need to like encapsulate the entire personality of this one sprite, and it needs to be varied, and it needs to fit a color palette, and I need to make 4 more that have different personalities and fit the color scheme. It was a really interesting exercise for me, where I had to like, how am I going to come up with all these personalities? How am I going to come up with different shapes? You know, like I need to come up with different shapes for humans. So I had like an old lady, and she had her cane, and she would bang her cane on the ground. Like that was her kind of idle animation, was that she just was like bang, 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 and her hair would flip. Like she had really short white hair, and it would, and I could just imagine this lady like so clearly in my mind, you know, just this old lady who's like, "Krr, krr, krr." But she was a super wise, like cool lady, and she talked about the myth of Sisyphus from Camus, so that was dope. Um, and then I had like, you know, like some, he was like a butcher, but he had like this huge mace. I mean, it was just it was unbelievable. It was like a war hammer. Let's see, similar boat sprites don't yell at you for syntax errors. That's true. That's true. It's mostly just fumbling with Asperite. The road goes ever on and on, says Rinzai. You must imagine him happy. Yeah. I loved that old lady sprite. She was like my favorite one. She was so cool. Um, I drew a bunch of sprites, and then Two Links went in and made them a lot better because he just kind of he understands more about them than I do. But yeah, I think that's just like it's just a really interesting confine to work within. Because like how do you define a personality in what 24 units of color? You know what I mean? Like that's what you got. Because you don't want the sprites to just be like man, you know, you want it to be like accountant. Check out voxels like sprites but 3D. Yeah, it sounds brutal, but cool though. Actually, it's like if 3D modeling was done in Minecraft. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. What is surreal and narrative gaming? NBA Street Volume 2. Yeah, I mean, I would classify NBA Street Volume 2 as a surreal narrative. Um, but the title is not that, right? It's just what is surreal in narrative and gaming. I hope. I hope I did it correctly. Because like I always do this thing where I change the title and then I click start streaming and then I look up and I'm like, oh fuck, I didn't click done. Because clicking done is update. I don't know why it's done. It shouldn't be done. It should be update. That would be better, in my opinion. Okay. So it is some good UI critique. Absolutely. No, it should be done, and it should be done right. Well, it should be updated to be correct. Um, so what was I going to say? Okay, so I guess there's a little bit of a preamble here where we can talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about. But I think the preamble before the preamble is that this is going to go on YouTube, which means I got to do like a quick little thing about the upcoming jam. Why not downdated? I don't know. So upcoming jam, middle of May. It's the Finish It Game Jam. It's where you're supposed to take a project and you're supposed to finish it. You can find it on itch.io. It's on the calendar, amazingly. And it's just called the Finish It Narrative Game Jam. So if anybody happens to catch this on YouTube, just go to itch. If you're like a budding developer or if you have a project that you've been working on, and it doesn't have to be a game. It can be any multitude of things. The only thing it can't be is printed text or Word document text. That's the only thing it can't be. Because to be honest, I'm just not very interested in reading it. And I don't think it's particularly fair to have other people, because it just takes a long time to read stuff. It just takes a while. And a lot of these people who are going to be putting in their games are maximum a half an hour. And they very likely put in way more work to make all the art, the sound, the text, the story, the music, the sprites, the mechanics, the coding, the da 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 da. They probably put in way more work, and it takes less time to get through than reading a short story, in my opinion. So that's the kind of the only thing I'm not interested in. Also, I just would rather push even writers to just do something else with their writing, like anything. Um, I think that just sounds more interesting. So like I like print text, but like just put it in Twine or Ren'P or anything, PowerPoint. You know, just as long as there's something more than just scrolling through a Word document. Um, that's that's basically it, and it starts in the middle of May, so you can join that. You can join the community. You can come to the Discord. You can talk. You know, all and get some inspiration. Maybe link up with some people to work on future things. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know, but those are all cool things. Rinzai says sales pitch. Hey bitches, join our sexy jam. I agree. I probably didn't say it in the same tone that he intended when he wrote it. If you can write but can't do coding, art, etc., collab. Exactly. The problem is, here's the big problem, and this is the problem I had when I was trying to get into this whole thing, was like before I even started streaming, before I did Neophyte, before a lot of that stuff, I was looking into how I could gain some experience. And the one thing that most developers are not looking for are writers, because they want to write their own game. So like if the writers want to come in and they're like, I would love to write a story for your game. Like Two Links is kind of rare in that regard. Like I think Two Links really likes to tell stories, but I think he's very, very much interested in telling his, like he's fine with his narrative being within the like his within his coding, within his development, right? Like he likes to figure out how to make a boss tell a story through its mechanics and visuals, whereas like I come in and I name it and I figure out how to like kind of like attach it to the bigger narrative. So like the version that he and I just put out, it's cool, and but like the narrative is just not really set because we actually have a much bigger narrative planned. We just can't really get to it yet. But so all of this is to say that he's kind of a rare occurrence in which like most of the people, like I would imagine a lot of people who come to our Discord, they're like, hey, I'm a writer, I'm basically useless, would you mind if I wrote your game for you? And most of the developers are like, no, I'm okay, I don't want that. um so yeah, what this is ultimately me saying, the writers are going to have to figure out how to make themselves more useful, right? Like I had to learn how to at least rough draft pixel art, and I'm a pretty decent audio. I can make pretty good audio sounds. Like I made all the audio for the most recent game and for Poyora. Um, let's see, it was spot on. Okay, cool. Two Links, he is the boss. Two Links, Two Links is the boss. He's the boss of my game, and I can't defeat him. Why? Because I don't want to. Because I don't want to. That's why I can't. Okay, that's all done. Jam on itch, join it, make a thing, finish the thing that you haven't finished yet, preferably. I still don't understand why coders do not hire writers. It's a digression, but yeah, I mean, I think it's because a lot of we're moving in the direction in which story is can be told and understood through a new grammar. For through, I was going to say a grammatic, because that's how you say it in German, ein Grammatik. Um, but it's being understood through a new grammar, and I think that a lot of people who grow up playing video games and are getting into the development side of things, kind of look at it as like they're writing stories. They just don't even quite realize it, right? Like I think it's really hard for human beings to just not write and tell stories, just like on accident. They're not always going to be great, but I think you just kind of step in it, you know. Like so one of the reasons why I was actually late to the stream today, just a really short thing before we get going. One of the reasons why I was late to the game or to the stream today was because I was going to buy some miniatures. Because my friend here in Germany is playing is playing a miniature game, like a like Warhammer kind of thing. It's a different one, but it's like Warhammer. And I have a couple of Warhammer models because I got into it over COVID. It was just super fun to like get these models and paint them. And so not only am I not making this game, not only am I not writing the rules, not only am I not designing the models, not only am I not doing most of the things in the creation process of a story, my little dudes that I painted like a year ago, kind of like you sit down and it's like you're birthing them, you know, like you're like you put the paint on their face and like you color their armor a certain color, and you're like, well, oh, but what do these colors mean? Like, are they like do they view themselves as like a Roman legion? What is yeah, what are all the what's the narrative? What's the lore behind this? And suddenly, you know, accidentally you've created an entire backstory for a bunch of dudes who are made out of plastic. They're toys, and I'm almost 30. You know what I mean? Like, it's just accidental. Like, I don't even think it's an intentional. Like, I didn't sit down and go, I'm going to tell a little story about these guys. It was just kind of like as I was painting them, I was writing a narrative about them in my mind. And I just think that that's just naturally the case. Like, if you're sitting down to make a game, you're looking at like, well, I'm going to need a character. I'm going to need it, you know? And so you sit down and as you're working on mechanics, you're suddenly like, well, okay, I'm going to, you know, the character has a goal because I can't do the next part of the game without giving them a goal. And then suddenly you're attached to them and you love this character and you care about them and you're writing it and suddenly you're telling a story and you didn't even mean to. You were just trying to develop a game, right? Um, Fear of writing and of reading is an illness. Maybe. I don't know. I don't think that what I said was I wasn't really trying to speak toward fear of writing and reading. I think it's just like it's more that what I'm more trying to say is that no matter what you do, you're writing story. You're just doing it in a way that you don't really expect you are, right? Like we interpret our world through narrative. That's how it all works. We can't escape narrative. We can't think any other way other than narrative. I love how familiarity and earnestly caring about certain mundane things gives them life. Exactly. Exactly. Which is, by the way, a really great explanation of how an objective correlative works. Like if you're going to sit for an hour poring over the little plastic figure, you're going to remember it. Exactly. It's just how we work. It's how we work. We can't help but ascribe emotion and backstory, and you know we can't help but do that. We can't. It's like natural. It's also why we say things like Germany disagrees with Russia over gas prices. It's like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. Germany disagrees. What? It's not a person. They're not having an argument. I live in Germany. I haven't spoken to one Russian, especially about gas prices. I agree, and I have thought of this of late. Yeah. I mean, we can't escape it. It's how we interpret our world. Even in our dreams, like what we're probably going to talk about a little bit tonight. And this is kind of leading into the preamble for the game that we're going to play tonight. Is that so? Dreams are an excellent teaching tool for narrative structure, and the reason why is because they absolutely do not follow logical structure whatsoever. So like think back on a dream or a funny moment in which you were telling a dream to one of your friends or to your spouse or your parents or your brother or sister or who, you know, whatever. So think on a funny dream or a funny happenstance in which you were trying to explain a dream to somebody and none of it makes any fucking sense to them, right? You're like, well, I was at the airport and I heard that McDonald's was going to close. And it sounds so clear to you when you're explaining this. But like, I heard that McDonald's was going to close. So I ran and ran and ran and I couldn't find it. And I just felt so slow. And my mom was so mad at me. And I dropped my coffee on the slide and the coffee went straight down the slide. And then I took the escalator to catch up with the coffee cup, and like suddenly you're just making literally no sense, right? That's why it's crucial for developers to think of games as narrative. I agree, not as mere mechanics. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean this is what we're always talking about, right? Like how do we imbue mechanics with narrative? That's what we need to do in order to push this medium further. Every single mechanic should be treated as though it is an objective correlative and is being pushed in a narrative direction, right? How can everything be used as a narrative tool? McDonald's will never close. You can't cancel them. It's true. Straight down the slide, huh? I hate to break it to you, but I know. It's unbelievable. It's not fair, though. Dreams have so many ineffable and personal experiences. Well, that's what reading a book is. There's so many ineffable and personal experiences in a dream, or in reading a book. Now, imagine when you were reading a book and then you watched the movie and they used an actor that you were like, who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that person? That is not Jimmy. That's not the man I know. Right? And they also operate on logic. They operate on very similar logic. Like, think about how many times you're watching a television show or reading a book or whatever, and the character's like, hello, how's it going? Anyway, here comes the bad guy. I need to fucking kill him. All right, have a nice day. Goodbye. Nobody in stories says that shit. Because it doesn't operate under functional, realistic, real-world logic. That's what we say in the real world. We say, thank you for calling. I appreciate it. I'm sorry. I have to. No, I'm sorry. I have to go. I love you, Mom. Okay, I'm sorry. I have to go. Goodbye. What'd you say? Yeah, okay, goodbye. Right? Like, that's real world. And that just doesn't occur in stories. Like, characters will literally say, like, who's coming? Him? Really? And then they hang up the phone. It's like, who the fuck operates like that? But we don't even notice it because we're in a dream. We've been lulled to sleep. That's what the suspension of disbelief really is. When people are referring to the suspension of disbelief, it's you're being held in a dreamlike state, right? Because now think of a time in which you were dreaming and then you're like, wait a second, my dog's not green. And then you wake up. Your suspension of disbelief has been broken. No one says goodbye on the phone. Absolutely nobody. Unless it's trying to break some weird rule or convention because it thinks it's clever. Except in Better Call Saul, I guess. Yeah, okay, I don't know. I haven't watched Better Call Saul. But I'm assuming it's trying to break some kind of convention. Or it's using it to some effect. But on the whole, characters don't really say that shit. In most narratives in which people talk on the phone, they do not say hello and they do not say goodbye. And there's a lot of other things. There's a lot of other conventions that don't make any sense in narrative storytelling, right? Like so for example, a lot of journeyman writers will do this, where they will write, the two characters left the village and they walked down the street and then they went through the forest and then they found a river and then they made it to the next village, right? And that's like 4 chapters. And then you read a professional writer and they're like, they left the village. And then the next chapter, they got to the next village. Because journeyman writers are thinking like, oh, I need to logically explain why we're getting to the things that we're getting to, right? People won't believe me that the characters just got to the next village. I have to show that they got to the next village. And pro writers are just like, and then they were at the next village. Because that's the only thing that matters, right? And it's the same thing in dreams. Like, how many times in a dream have you gone from the airport to an amusement park, or you were in your house and then you opened a door and you're in your school, right? You're just like, and you're like, this is totally makes perfect sense, you know. It's never confusing to you. It's like, of course I was in my school. Of course, I didn't walk out to the bus and get on the bus and then sit in my chair and then notice that the heater was on my legs and then get all the way to the school and remember that that car is always parked in front of the hair salon and then always get out of the bus and then always go to the door and then always wait in line and then go into school. Like, you just walk out your front door into the school in your dream. And I'm telling you, the stories work on the exact same logic. Because they only are doing what is necessary. They're only, the dreams are only, if we can ascribe for them a moment that they have some kind of goal. Dreams are only telling you what is important in the dream. Cut the fluff. People shit and sleep more often than they do in stories. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like imagine if it was like, and then he had to go take a piss. He unzipped his pants, and then urine came out. It's like, what the fuck? I do not undermine the importance of programming and mechanics. I just don't like programming and mechanics to undermine me. So why do Twitch viewers watch people sleep? It's a fantastic question. Yeah, that does sound like James Joyce. But James Joyce was probably very much talking about the exact same shit that we're talking about right now and was going, why don't people pee in stories? I'm going to make him pee I'm going to make him fart in a woman's face, and then he's going to write a letter. Actually, that was me. Not me, James Joyce. Okay. So, dream logic, right? Used in almost all narrative. It's not particularly unique to certain types of narrative. In fact, a lot of people would say that the hyperrealism movement came from protesting against dream logic and narratives, right? Writers like David Foster Wallace, for example, who was often protesting through his art the traditional structure for narrative, right? The Depressed Person, and Infinite Jest, in which like everything is described in such excruciating detail that it's unreadable, in my opinion. I understand that it's an incredible book, but like I just can't read it. And it's also, it takes 6,000 years to read, and I just don't want to. Let's play with wood. Yeah, Wrath of Wood isn't here yet, I don't think. His game. Yeah, I'm assuming he's not going to come. So, or they or she. I don't know who this person is, but so getting through the preamble. What I find is interesting is that surrealism is a very particular movement within narrative storytelling, and it has deep roots in history far beyond my own knowledge. I'm probably the first to admit that I don't know much about surrealism and narrative. I just don't really know much about it. I mean, I've read a lot, but I wouldn't call myself educated in it. I mean, like, for example, probably the closest thing I've ever gotten to was I got to review Lance Olson's book. I can't even remember what it was called, but apparently it's a good book. I didn't like it, because it was about it was like a retelling of the mythical story about the Minotaur and the little girl, except for the little girl is the Minotaur. There's a lot of things I don't really understand about that book, but like it was very much operating under the function. This is one of the premier writers of surrealism today. And I reviewed his book for a magazine, and I was like, it's very interesting because you don't write negative reviews for books. Like, if you want to be a writer, you don't write negative reviews ever, because it's just there's nothing to gain from writing a negative review. So I was just like, it's not particularly for me, but it's a great book for people who enjoy this kind of thing. And then, so he taught at the University of Utah, where I'm originally from. Not from the University of Utah, but from Utah. So he teaches currently at the University of Utah. And then I went to the like Surrealism Narrative Conference at Notre Dame University in my first year of my MFA. And I saw him and I was like, holy shit, that's the fucking dude that I reviewed his book. And I went up and I was like, hey, hi, my name is Dylan. I'm originally from Utah, actually. And I applied to the University of Utah to write there, and you said no. So you're mean. But I didn't actually say that. I said that in my mind. And then I was like, I actually reviewed your book for Slug Magazine. And he was like, oh, so that's you. And then he never said another word to me after that. He turned and walked away. And that's my experience with surrealism. It's hard to imagine or to understand a world without negative reviews. There's just no point in writing one if you're a writer. Yeah, that was my entire experience. Oh no is right. That was my entire experience with surrealist narrative at a higher level. I don't know if he actually remembered me or if he just said that. Like he was just like, "Oh, bless your heart." You know what I mean? Like it was just like, "Oh, you're nice," and then he just like walked away. But it didn't feel like it. It really felt like he was like, "Oh, that's you. You wrote that. Oh, okay." And then I was like, okay, well, let's go to the conference. And then I went into the conference and I sat and he and his wife had an exhibit and I just didn't understand anything about it. They had like this room booked and it was like, there was all these weird, it was like you had to put on headphones and there was like horrible sounds playing in your ears and it was supposed to be a novel that is experienced in room form. And I was like, oh my God, this is just, I don't understand what we're talking about. I still can't understand why people avoid negative reviews on itch. It seems imbalanced. I mean, there's just, if you want to make it as an artist, you don't want to shit on other people's work. That's why. I mean, I don't think it's particularly earnest, but like you're cutting off potential avenues for any sort of friend making. I mean, like, because it all comes back to like constructive criticism. Like we're moving into a world in which everybody is trying to consider themselves peers with everybody else. And so when you do that, you can't really say, well, this person fucked all this up. Right? Because we're also in a like post rules era in which like everybody's like, well, that's just your interpretation, man. Let's see. They want others to play and be nice about their own games. They don't want to be the other person who says mean things because everyone takes that nicely. Yeah. And I hate that. I'd rather honesty, but tact is necessary if you want to be socially successful. Yeah. Yeah. It's just a kind of a necessary evil about something that doesn't super matter. Right? Like you give them a negative review. What happens? What's the best case scenario? Their game gets played less. They feel kind of bad and maybe internalize the critique and get better. Or like that's best case scenario, right? Or you can constructively critique it, say I loved it to make them feel good about having worked on something. Tell them that there's a lot of great things, but here's something that they could do better. And then upvote it so that other people play it, right? It's kind of the same thing with books. Like that's how book reviews are. There's no point in, it's like, well, see, here's the thing. Your personal experience of growing up in India, it was shit. It was shit. You know, it's just like, what? Why? You know, just say it was good. It's the same thing as saying it was shit. What does it matter? I absolutely cannot stand that thought. That's just your interpretation, man. That's how surrealism operates. The people improve through criticism. Yeah, I agree. I think that would be nice, but I just don't think people particularly take to that kind of thing. Man, have I ever said a negative thing about any game that's ever been submitted to our jam? Ever? I don't think so. I thought your whole frustration with the MFA was that, yeah, I agree. I'm in between two minds about this. Like, I think it's both bad and, like, unavoidable. No, you haven't got my hopes up? That I was going to critique something? I'm happy to critique stuff. I just, like, it's burned into me, man. It's burned into me. It's like branded on my skin. Like, I'd rather have real illegitimacy than fake legitimacy. Well, I think it's just a different way that I interpret it, right? Like, making the work is about as important as making it well. And like, what I understand from spending literally over a decade in workshops is that you're your own worst critic. And so when a person comes in and they go, I really love this story. I thought it was really interesting and really fun. I didn't really understand what the dog was for. I know what the dog was for in the story, right? I know exactly what the dog was for. And so when that person says, I don't know what the dog was for, I'm like, holy fuck. I know everything I need to do to be better. Right? But I think that takes a certain amount of self-critique, right? And I'm not going to force you to self-critique yourself. Like, I'm going to point out the things that I like, and I'm going to mark the moments in which I'm confused, because I think that that's a valuable thing. Like, I don't think it's valuable for me to say, this sucked. I just don't think that's valuable. It's not valuable or interesting, right? I can say, I have a question about this. Or, I didn't understand what this was, right? Or like, okay, a great example, you can go back and watch the video in which I was really confused. I was really confused about the narrative in a Dream Cartographer's game. That's not to say that it's a bad narrative. I just didn't understand it, which is totally normal and happens all the fucking time when you're reading stories, right? All the time. I didn't understand what was going on. And then people were legitimately getting frustrated with me that I couldn't understand it. And that was the one time in which I really approached the idea of like, I don't understand what's going on in this story. And people were legitimately upset. They were mad at me because I didn't understand it. As though I had like not done my due diligence or, something along those lines. I mean, I don't really know. And I'm ultimately fine with it because that kind of stuff happens. But like, yeah, anyway, I got to read some of these chat messages. You said we mustn't. Yeah, well, what I mean, you're right. We mustn't have a captive audience. And what I meant by having a captive audience is most people aren't going to sit down and write a negative review. They're going to look at it. They're going to look at that thing and they're going to go, fuck this. And then they go to the next thing and they don't say a word. They just say, fuck this. That's it. They don't tell you anything. They just don't play it. Right? That's what I mean by a captive audience. A captive audience is somebody who has to read it or has to experience it or has to play it as a result of some kind of external circumstance, like being in an MFA or like being in a workshop group with your friends, right? Like you met some people at a bar, they all write really horrible short stories, and so you all come together and you're captive in that you have to all read each other's stories so that they'll read your story, right? And that's what I mean by a captive audience. And when you're in a captive audience state, you have to come up with things to say that are good and bad. And that's the problem. Because sometimes a story is just fucking good and there's not actually a big thing to say to make it better. And sometimes there are stories that are they missed it, and it just happens. But the problem is that people aren't mature enough to handle that kind of thing because they really care about the things that they write, which is ultimately why I come back around to it's basically as important to just finish the thing as it is to finish it correctly or make it well. Does that make sense? That's kind of what I'm getting at here. And then Squishy Buff Dave says, it's not really that hard to suggest ways something could be improved in a nice way. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's see. Sure, I guess, but why? Because you're a fucking human? Nihilism doesn't reign. We don't just cut in line at the coffee shop. It's not enough to communicate what's correct to someone if you're infuriating or belittling them in the process. Yeah, exactly. I guess what traumatized me on the internet was I won't tell your opinion was wrong because I don't want to be wrong. Yeah, I mean, I agree that there are some weird problems in both directions, right? I think it's disingenuous to say I think the story is good when you don't think it's good. I think that's disingenuous. However, I also think that it's important to remember that somebody worked on something and that means something. That's kind of what I'm getting at. And I think that's ultimately where I fall down on this shit. Anyway, we've gotten super far away from surrealism. I can see in my neck I'm red and I don't know why. Captive audience is stuck in the backseat on a road trip. Yeah. Okay. We'll play soon twice. I agree that nihilism doesn't reign. That is exactly my position. I agree that labor matters. We need to play Wood's game. He's here. All right, let's begin. Surrealism. Let's make me small. And make the window smaller. Make this smaller. And this smaller. Move me over here. Can we all hear the game? Image. I think we're working. And if I remember correctly, this was made in RPG Maker, right? There's a first-person 3D in RPG Maker. I just remember being told that by either Rinzai or Wrath. I can't remember. But opening thoughts? I mean, it's very clear that it's trying to establish some kind of like descent into madness story, right? Like that's the entire point of opening a narrative in which you're kind of staring at the sky and you have this lofty kind of like very not lazy, that's not the word I'm looking for, but like a lighthearted, a lighthearted tune, and you're floating through presumably a city, and then you end up in this kind of dark alley with these monsters. So that's kind of the opening thought on how that narrative works. I mean, like a lot of the time when you have a narrative, you'll have the microcosm of the narrative right at the beginning, in which you're explaining everything that's going to happen in symbology, and that was kind of my interpretation of that opening. Madness, I thought it was just a day in the life. I mean, I don't know this person. What I'm looking at is the color. The color shift and the going from the normal to the not normal, right? Which is in storytelling terms called entering the special world, right? And so we entered the special world, but it was a prologue. And usually when it's a prologue, it means it's a microcosm. So heading towards Chomping Maw of Madness. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, yeah. That intro song is randomized arpeggios and Fruity Loops. Huh, cool. I still don't understand why you want your old computer back. Okay, so they're leaving and they don't understand why I want my computer back. It's mine. It's mine and I wanted it back. There are games that I want to play on it. Mom, do we really have to talk with the door closed? This is the safest way according to the enforcement. Okay, so we've already established like two things. Either the enforcement is some kind of like weird court ordered, like this child is some kind of dangerous danger to society kind of thing, or this is some kind of like Orwellian type world in which the enforcement dictates what people are allowed to do. Are you sure? Are you sure you know how to set it up? Yes. If I'm role playing, yes. Fooly Cooly Studio. Yes, Mom. I'll be fine. It's easy. It's already ready to go. Need an apostrophe here? It's already ready to go. I just need to start it up. Well, you were always so smart with this stuff. I thought you were going to grow up to do tech support on the moon or touch the stars. We had a lot of trouble driving here from out of town, Okay, so that's, obviously a very interesting and important thing that just happened there. Like the whole, the dad talks and there's an incredibly loud sound. Enforcement is a all in own government police thing. You never really see it. Yeah, but it's part of the world, right? I'm kind of trying to project out into the world what is taking place because you're world building here, which means that it's something that we ought to pay attention to, even if it's not something that is going to be like really important to the narrative, right? I mean, so far we already know that there's a huge problem with authority in this narrative because we have a problem with the father and we have this weird enforcement thing that is being talked about. Even if it's not important, we know that these two things make a theme, and the theme is anti-authority because we're afraid of the father because that sound was really scary, right? It's either fear of authority or anti-authority, and fear is anti anyway, so it's anti-authority. We were stopped by the enforcement 3 times on the way here. They are just doing their job. That's what took you so long. Okay, so we're in some kind of institution or college. So now we get a chance to side with authority or not be anti-authority, but more like I don't know, like we either agree with it or we just don't care. They're just doing their job. We don't have time to. I went with that. They're just doing their job because I thought it was the more interesting answer. We don't have time to waste here. We have to get home before curfew. Okay, so I mean, this is full on 1984. Okay, sorry, honey, we have to go. By the way, congrats on your new house. I'm so proud of you. Come on, we have to get home. You're a jerk. Dad, you were being a jerk. Stop it. This convo choices affect ending. It was my first time doing 2 endings. Oh, interesting. This is a painting of a pirate ship. I wonder if it is carrying any questionable substances. It's kind of an interesting line. Questionable substances. Like, that is like never what I'm thinking when I see a pirate ship. Which I don't think that that's like a mistake. I think that's some kind of interesting observation from the character. This convo choices. Oh, basic moral choices. It's my fridge. Oh, I found a cookie. Yum. It's my oven. It is. To walk, use your 2 feet. First place right leg in front, and then lean while moving your left leg roughly the same distance. Then repeat. Z or enter is interact. Okay, camera. I'll take a picture. Running saves lives. Run. Oh, the shift key. Beautiful. Love the shift key. Nope, not yet. First, I want to click on the phone. I want to interact with the phone. Too late at night to call anyone. Got it. I can save. Cool. Oops. Use PC. You can do well. You can do well in the games to affect it. Okay. Affect it with A. The ship is from another game I made. Gotcha. Shift into overdrive. Okay, first thing is to install Eva. It's the name of my wife. She is kind of like an operating system. When I was a kid, I couldn't remember how to run games from disks, so me and Gramps wrote a program for running games easy. First, click the run button, insert the disk, then install Eva. Okay, so one of the things I actually think is really quite good is that you're using a lot of opportunities for game experiences to mimic narrative experiences, right? So like, think about like a short story you're reading in which, you know, I don't know, it's about a kid he has to go outside and cut wood or something. So he goes outside to cut wood and he grabs his axe and then he thinks about his grandfather because it was his grandfather's axe and his grandfather used it, right? So there's a symbol baked into the axe and there's a symbol baked into the kid going out to cut the wood, but we're also getting some backstory. And that's what I'm kind of interpreting this as, because now I know that he has a good relationship with his grandfather and that they used to install operating systems on machines together, which means that they're both kind of techie people, probably his grandfather more so than him, although that could be different now. Anyway, first click the run button, insert the disk, then install Eva. Not that it's particularly difficult. Okay, I have to find the disk. If I remember correctly... Did I do something wrong? Ah, okay. Insert disk. Insert which disk? EVA. EVA disk inserted. Install. Installing. Install complete. EVA. Start EVA. Welcome to user. I prefer to use the user's name to appear more friendly and harmless. Okay. You are this character, but you also have this history, you know? Yeah, I mean, that's what video game characters are. Video games are innately second person. Stories are always you because you're the one that is affecting the world, right? And it's a hard balance to drive because how can you make a game in which the you has no backstory, but you also can't make the game Dylan because Dylan didn't install EVA operating systems with his grandfather. This is a very common topic of conversation on the stream of how to get around this second person problem. And I think that this is, one of the ways to do it. It's just kind of like to boldly just say, you are this person and also you had a grandfather. What is your human name? Enter name. My name is DDOOOTT. Doot. Let me take care of all your personal computer needs. Feeding me new information from storage disks is important for a better user experience. Feed me new information. For new information. Start EVA. Enter name. Already did. Thank you, dude. Let me take care of all your personal needs. Feeding me new information from storage disks is important. Okay, so if I remember, feed me new information is important. And I think when we come away from this, well, I got EVA installed, which is nothing without game disks. I swear that I had more of them when I was a kid. I'm sure I will find some discs. Those things are always popping up in the weirdest places. I should sleep now and look for the game discs as soon as I can. It's kind of interesting that it's just like, I remember my game discs are in my dreams. Lay down. Dude was my father's name. His name was Dude Davis. I found a disc. Or a cookie. Oh, it's a no. I wonder who dropped this. I walked along the subway lines, then I jammed inside a disc inside the old pachinko game. Ah, you're mean. Go away. Ah, subway. Ah, I don't want to go down there. X. Monsters. Jesus Christ, this is made in RPG Maker. Jesus Christ. Ah! Ah! It's interesting that your feet make different noises. This is exactly what I would do in my dream. I would just run as fast as physically possible. Ah! Ooh! Ah! Jesus. Eat your cookie, you may die. How in the absolute fuck do I do that? Ah. 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 Shit. Go away. Why am I so goddamn slow? Is this more dream shit or did I run out of energy? What is this diamond thing? Oh, hey, it's a shiny thing. Huh. No. Excuse me. Jesus. Just, it's like the second I take any amount of damage, I need to use the cookie. But I'm almost out of cookies. Dude, it just doesn't fucking end. Oh no. Oh shit. I'm gonna die. God damn it. No. Oh my. Okay. Oh, I wish I could jump. I think I'm kind of fucked here. Do I... Okay, I'm dead. You get 3 hits. Okay, good to know. So do we have an elastic failure state? That's what I'm hoping for. Did we get a disc? I don't think we did. I need to add signs saying eat cookies. Yeah, I'm fucked. I figured. Dude again. Thank you, dude. Important for a better user experience. Feed me new information. So I don't have a disc. There's a secret place you get cookies infinitely. Well, I do like... So we need to go into the dream world over and over and over again in order to find... these discs, which would progress the narrative, I'm assuming. Oh, there is a sprint amount. Okay. Gotcha. Okay, so I'm just over sprinting. Dick. Okay, let's go into the subway. Ah. I really like the use of like the... I don't know, the imagery is just really strong. Running saves lives, yeah. Thanks. It's locked, but I bet there's a way around. What a freaky ass game this is. Jesus. Ah! Who are you? The mouth from the beginning. Ah! Run. Ah! Pro tip, you can run backwards and not lose stamina. Oh. Ow. Mean. Where's this thing? Ah, you fucking asshole. Okay, I'm dead. I like that the control hints are diegetic. Yeah, like in... Yeah, definitely, I agree. Never run backwards. So the pro tip was a false pro tip. It was a false flag operation. Huh? So the title is sort of giving some of this away. Ah! 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 Jesus, go away! Mean! God, what a nightmare. Run where? I can't even hop over like small curbs. Okay, so I gotta say, so far, like, my favorite thing is that the game has elastic failure. Love it. I love elastic failure. You like the eyeball creatures? Yeah, basically everything is really cool. But yeah, the eyeball creatures definitely stand out. They're kind of the right combination of like freaky, but they're actually not like that freaky. You can also save scum. Save scum? I feel like there's no way to save scum whatsoever. Unless I can save like right now. Oh, huge door. So this is a shortcut to a different area. Play pachinko? Let's freaking go. What? That was unexpected. You hit save whenever? Oh, okay. I'm a big fan of save scumming. I have to agree. I have save scummed quite a lot in RimWorld, for example, because it stopped telling me the right story. Oh, 10 balls. Oh, I didn't mean to quit. Oh, hey, a disc came out of the prize hole. This one has a flower on it. Excellent. How did you make this an RPG maker? I know, right? It's absolutely fucking crazy. I didn't even know this shit was, like, possible. I didn't think that you could even get this perspective in RPG Maker. Oh, I'm out of energy. I can appreciate when games force you to not save scum, but I can also appreciate when I want a game to tell me a story. That was a weird little detour. When the game wants a narrative to be good and it doesn't tell it right, I'm just like, just let me do it. Like I do that in all my Total Warhammer games, always. Or just Total War games in general. Because I really like Total War games. I think they tell like amazing stories. I think maybe we need to finish this. It's just saving, fuck it, yeah. I'm just like trying to get through this as fast as physically possible so that we can see what happens at the end. Yeah, I agree with that. I'll take save scamming over that as well. Does it still say I have 10 balls left? 16 balls left. What if your mom is like, get off the game? You don't beat it? Okay. I don't know. I've never played. I've never played pachinko. I don't know anything about pachinko. Like literally nothing at all. Okay. Oh, now we're on this side. Wait, no, we're not. Wait, yeah, we are. What the fuck? Ah, I got the check mark. Is the world altered in some way? Oh, a note. Another note. Why is this just lying around? I was walking in the woods. I must have dropped it. That disc contained highly unsafe data. Yeah, right. It is a good example of dream physics. Okay, I have not gotten this disc, so we're gonna search for the disc in the scary, scary woods. I also... Okay, I have a question. Is the like movement janky and brutal because it's trying to mimic like dream movement, or is that just like a... Because I feel like I'm drifting all the time and like my character seems to randomly change speed and shit. I didn't realize this game was a social experiment as well. The game giving you feedback for which discs you found in which areas is useful. It definitely is. Have I been in here? Huh. I guess so. I don't remember. I don't remember going into the spooky forest. Yeah, I know, the big scary TV. God, the sound is awesome though. I love that sound. The game giving you I found that made it easier to come back to the game after playing after a few days. Agreed, yeah. 8 directions of movement. I mean, it's not so much like the number of directions I can move. I just feel like I'm often getting stuck on the geometry. I feel like sometimes my character has legs, sometimes I float, you know what I mean? Like, oh, god damn it. I'm a fucking idiot. Okay, but I got a disc, so at least I can do something with that. Alright. Let's take a gander at the old use PC. So I'm assuming something has changed now because I have a disc. Never mind. Or do I need to find all 8 discs before I can get narrative payoff for it? Is that possible? My name is Dude. Dylan, did you beat this back in Dream Jam when you were judged? I didn't beat the entire game, no. I played for what felt like a long time, and I was just kind of taking a tour of this person's nightmares, and I was like, that's why I can remember certain things, like going into the subway. I remember the big dude with the teeth in the subway. There's a bunch of stuff I remember. I remember going into the forest. Yeah, I have played it before. Go to run and insert the disc there. Yeah, probably. Let me take care of all your personal computer needs. Feed me new information. Okay, close this. Run. Insert disk. Which disk? Flower. Ah, okay, thank you. This is an updated version. Gotcha. Flower disk inserted. Dude. Thank you, dude. Damn you, Eva. Run. Do I install? Installing done. Ah. Flower wants to fight. Peja. Pega. Brother, watch out. It is a bouquet of flowers. Ishker. We must stomp them out immediately before someone gets hurt. Pega. Yes, quite certainly. Indeed, of course. On with the battle, then. Yes, indeed. It is time to defend ourselves. After you find her. Naturally, I would lead. I am older than you. Than. With an A. Yes, brother. I have been hearing of this since birth. Oh, okay. That flower hit us while we were conversing. We shall have to teach it some manners, indeed. 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 Attack. Attack. Oh, there's that many flowers. Well, we'll attack flower A. And to judge how much damage we do, we will attack flower B with him. 11. And 10. How come everybody's trying to kill Pega? Wow, these flowers are just beating our asses. We are getting our asses kicked. Indeed, yes, we are quite screwed, brother. Attack. Elemental. Icicle drop. Overkill? On flower A. Elemental. Hurl lava. Flower B. Bang. This battle system I prefer not to use. Yeah, it's not my favorite. I don't particularly like turn-based, like kind of Pokemon-y JRPG style battle systems, but I think they can be used to effect. I thought the vape was a sound effect in the game, sorry. Sorry. Heal Pagel? It's too late. I think I'm just gonna leave him. It's a tough game. I could never get past this part when I was a kid too. So if I go into it again... Okay, we're good. Sorry, I just have to make sure that I'm, like, available. Because toward the end of the night, my phone just, like, goes into, like, this mode in which I don't receive any messages or anything. You beat it first time. I mean, I do not play these kinds of games. Too many random, or this type of battle system I'm very, very unfamiliar with. Too many random number things going on here. I prefer to build the combat system from scratch. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to try something else. Do we have any items? No. Oh, we charged some. Okay. So I think we're going to charge one more turn. Because they're not doing that much damage. If we can just out heal that, that's like the overload move. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to do, is raise the charge so that we can use those. Okay, so we need to go one more turn with defend. Oh, no. Okay, so I'm thinking we're just going to keep defending and regaining health and just overcharge again. It's not overly done, but this fight seems hard at first. Yeah, I think it's hard if you try to approach it like what would be considered a normal fight. But I think we need to heal. Wait, no. Okay, so we're going to make Ishkur defend and Pega will heal. Pega. Okay. I assumed that I was building more charge by defending, but I could be wrong. Once they're less than 4, it's a cakewalk. Yeah, that makes sense. Overkill is like a finisher. Okay. Okay, well, Ishkur can't do the overload thing, so he's going to heal Pega, and then Pega is going to do overkill. I just feel like there's not a reason to, like, use energy, or, well, I guess they don't really use energy to do, like, their special magic moves. So I guess that means that Pega can do his energy stuff and then Ishkur will do his overload move. So elemental, overkill, and then he will do elemental, hurl lava at, I don't know, that one. Cool, I guessed right. Alright. I will not let him die. Don't you worry. Attack. Okay, so we're gonna do elemental, heal, Ishkur, 1. Yeah, right. All right, so icicle drop on him, lava on him. I like getting things off the board so they don't deal as much per round in like every game. Yeah. Okay. Oops. Yeah, I just don't know what happens if I kill one with one ability and then I don't, like, does the other ability just move on to the next enemy, or does it? That's why I was like choosing not to just overload on one guy. Like I was like, it probably makes more sense to like not waste abilities. Everyone beats this in the same amount of time, pretty much. Very interesting. Ishkur is now level 99. We're level 99. I can't believe I beat that part. I could never beat this as a kid. Yeah. You know, the number of games that I have stopped playing and then I came back a year later and I sat down to finish it and then it was literally the next thing I had to do and then the game ended. Unbelievable. I just did that with, what was that game called? I really love that game. Grim Dawn. It's like Diablo. It's like a Diablo-style ARPG. And, like, I've been trying to beat that game for, like, a couple of years, and I just kind of always stopped for whatever reason. Like, I was like, I don't really like this character. And, you know, I just move on and do something else. And then this time I was like, I'm really going to beat it. And then I got really far into the game, and then I stopped playing. And I sat down, like, last week or 10 days ago or so, and I was, like, literally on the last boss. Like, I beat the last boss, and I was like, oh, that was the last boss. Oh. Like, roll credits. That happened so much. That happened with BioShock. That's happened with Oblivion, like Elder Scrolls. That happened with a lot of games with me for some reason. I don't know why. Anyway, so we beat it. Now can I talk to Eva? How's it going, dude? Let me take care of all your computer needs. I like how it just pretty confidently says, I've already said this, but like, I think it can't be overstated how much I actually really like that the game just confidently says, or the story, if like the narrative of the game is like, I am a person in this world and I know that I need to go into my dreams to find the thing that progresses the narrative. Like just having that kind of, I've talked about this a lot in world building, which is like that there's a certain level of confidence that a world needs in order for people to believe it, right? Like Disco Elysium. Like when you play Disco Elysium, it just, the world exists. It's just, it's confidence in its existence, and therefore it can get away with basically anything, right? And we just kind of buy it as an audience because we're like, you did enough, you know, like you did enough to make me happy, and therefore I don't care. I played up to the mountain for a few hours, but put it down, came back, and it was like 5 minutes left. Yeah. Oh, I think I did with that with Journey. It tells, not shows. No, it's not. It's not just that. Like, because you can do the same thing with showing. I mean, in this particular game, it is just telling, which is, you know, it's fine because it's doing enough to not like bother me that it's just saying like I need to go to sleep. I think it would be kind of interesting to see what that would look like though if it were to try and show that rather than tell it. But yeah, I just like I think that there are certain concessions you can make for the sake of convenience, right? Like there's a reason why a lot of the time they're like, when you read a book by a pro writer or something, they're like, and then they came upon the city of Vavo. And Vavo is an ancient city inhabited by people who have snake-like skin, and you know what I mean. Like, it's just they just say it real quick. It's like, here, by the way, here's a quick thing. Here's a quick, like, the first paragraph of a Wikipedia page of this city, so that we just don't have to. So you're not confused in the next 10 minutes, right? And that's the kind of thing in which you can exposit. I still think it might be better if we were to go into the city and experience the lizard people, the city of Vavo. You know, do I think that the story sucks if it doesn't do that? No. I just think that I am I would be interested if at all points in which people told instead of showed, what it would look like if it were shown and not told. Right? But the point that I'm more making is that confidence in world building just comes from the very fact that it is confidence in its existence, right? Like the game, this game world has confidence in its existence. So it's not so much that he says it, it's that it is just the case, and it's not trying to justify it, right? It's not like, you see, in our world, dreams are this incredibly important thing in which you can enter and leave. You know, it's not explaining it. It just is the case, right? It doesn't bother the protagonist, therefore it doesn't bother the audience, right? When the protagonist is trying to say, hey, here's the thing, I know what you're thinking. It's pretty weird that we go into our dreams and we find discs that unlock the secrets to our past, right? When a protagonist does that, which often crops up in journeyman fiction or amateur fiction, sophomoric fiction, you go, the world's not confident. The world's not confident in itself. I can see it. I can see that the world's not confident in itself, right? And that breaks illusion. Your dreams are confident in themselves, right? The dreams that you're experiencing when you go to sleep at night, you believe that your mother is a crocodile. You're like, yeah, of course my mother's a crocodile. I never would have thought it any other way than my mother being a crocodile right now, right? So that's kind of the thing that I'm driving at, and it's the thing that has been driving for me this entire narrative, is that there is nothing more to this than the character goes, I have to go into my dreams in order to find the disk so that I can make my computer work. Right? No justification. It's just, I want to make my computer work. I really like my computer. I used to work with my grandfather on this computer, and the disks are in my dreams, and I got to go find them. Right? And so now I think we can talk about surrealism a little bit, because I can only get so far when I'm trying to focus on playing the game. And now I think we can get to the discussion portion of this, especially because it might be the case I have to leave soon. So let's discuss this, and we can play this next week. That's fine. But I think we can have an opening conversation about what surrealism is. It's just a matter of fact, bro. Gotta go to sleep to get my discs. Just a day in the life. That's just me directing the player. Right. Well, and that's what a lot of writers say. Right? Is a lot of writers say things like, and you're not wrong. I believe you. But what writers will say is something to the effect of, these are the objects I put in the story. Right? Well, why does the protagonist carry around a stuffed unicorn in their car? Because they carry around a stuffed unicorn in their car. Right? That's what writers will often say. And they mean it. Right? They mean it. They mean that there's a stuffed unicorn in the car because there's a stuffed unicorn in the car. But it's not the case. Right? So it is both the case and also not the case. Because the stuffed unicorn means many things. It means something to the effect of a relationship with the daughter, or the relationship with whatever, right? It always means something, whether the writer means it or not. This is why a lot of the time when I was in my MFA, Pinckney would just say, write the rough draft, go back, read it, write down all the objects that you used by chance, and then build those into objective correlatives. Because you are intuiting the narrative better than you're writing it. Right? You just need to tell the player where to go, so you come up with a reason for why it is the case. Right? You're like, well, he needs to go into his dreams because I want it to be like a dreamlike narrative. Right? Now we can talk about, why are the discs in his dreams? Why are the games in his dreams? Why are games the things that he needs to find in his dreams? Why is it something to do with his grandfather? You know what I mean? I've played too many games. Where the fuck do I go games? Yeah, fair enough. Yumeniki, take a drink. Let's see. Look how barren the house is. You have nothing extra. Yeah, agreed. And so, yeah, so the character, I mean, yeah, we can start there. Like, the character doesn't have a lot. He has a couple of posters which explain how his life works. And he has a fridge that has a cookie in it. And he has a computer and a bed. And the bed is this magical teleportation device that puts him into a state in which he can find what I am choosing to assume are happy memories. Yeah, we'll probably get to the phone walking eventually, but and I'm assuming that we're going to start seeing a breakdown of reality here, right? Because of that prologue that we got at the beginning, in which we watched the character descend into madness, right? And also, there's a lot of like symmetry and symbology in the dream world, in which the computer is often being portrayed as some kind of monster in a subway, or is being worshipped by other monsters in the dreams, or, you know. So what we know is that there are like two kinds of vague antagonists that we don't really fully understand yet, and that is father figures and the computer. But we don't understand exactly what's going on with the computer yet. Yeah, I don't know. It's quite interesting. I'm thinking that where we're getting, I mean, literally all surreal means is dream, right? Dream-like. That's what surreal means as a word, effectively. And so I'll also add that my praise is totally sincere. I don't fatten people for the slaughter. Okay. But the thing I find very interesting and very accomplished about the game is, again, that one of the things that I think a lot of surrealist writers do is they try to overly make points. And this is one of the things I truly, truly despise about surrealism writing. I think that it is often extremely masturbatory, and I really just don't like watching somebody masturbate in front of me. It's just not something I'm interested in. You know, I don't like watching people go, look how fucking smart I am, right? And and it's like, I don't need to follow convention. I don't need to do any of this because I'm so goddamn smart that I can just make my point in these vague interpretations, right? And to me, there's nothing vague about this. It's actually really concrete, right? Like, we're descending down into subways. We're going through creepy woods. We're going into these horrible places. We're going into these courtrooms where monsters are worshiping computers. And, like, to me, that's all quite concrete because I think it's all well chosen, and it's also being used repetitively. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a good way. Like, we see these monsters kind of crop up all over the place again and again and again. And now that might be simply because Wrath of Wood didn't want to draw that many monsters. But I also don't think that he should have, because I think it was the right choice to have these monsters come up again and again and again. Because we're starting to build kind of like a rapport with the narrative. But does that all make sense? I feel like I've been talking a lot and not reading chat. Eva and the computer is almost too vague to me. I feel like I didn't develop it enough. I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see as we go further in the game, because I'm interested in continuing to play it. I would be curious to see if I end up feeling the same way, because I think definitely one of the things that could have changed was every time you get through one of the discs, you get more information from Eva. That's one thing. Like, I was slightly disappointed when I didn't see like a new line, like literally a simple line of just like in reference to the game, or to just give me something to chew on that I went through that fight. Right. That's kind of a payoff that that probably could have worked quite well there. It's fine. It's fine. Hail Cathart again. No, don't hail me. I'm not a leader. Maybe better not to and leave it mysterious. Yeah, that's also an option. But I do think that something as small as just like noting something. The disc being in dreams makes me think about how my favorite games live in my memory. Yeah, I mean, there you go, right? Like we can already, because one of the interesting things about surrealism is it ends up being extremely literal, right? Like in surrealist fiction, it's like, yeah, the maze that the Minotaur is lost in, it's just New York, right? It's just New York. New York is a maze. And it's very extremely on the nose, I'm a genius literal, right? But yeah, but I think that this is used quite effectively in that it's because it's about something small, but not like so small that it's, not worth storytelling. It's just like it's about something smaller. Because to me, I cannot escape that this is a story about a grandson and his grandfather. I can't escape it. Like it's going to be my driving force for the rest of the narrative. Um, let's see. Mini games needed assets I could add. More monsters. Yeah. Okay, I agree on this part. I added one in the update, but it fits the level, so it's only there. Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with adding more, but I just am wanting to particularly note that I like the reusing of these assets because again, I don't think that, I mean, audiences are smart enough to realize that we're going into his dreams. And so now we're not examining these monsters as just monsters in a game. We're examining these monsters as very particular things about the character, right? Red hands coming out of walls. There's a lot of interpretations you could put into that. We have these like green eyeball creatures that kind of reminds me of many green eyeball creatures, right? We have the little like red ghosty boys that hang out on the floor. And then we have the really scary TV, I mean, computer, and the really scary TV, right? So there's a lot of fear of electronics, or at least two examples of it, which I find kind of interesting. And then the rest are not necessarily generic, but not so well defined, I would say, not so on the nose as a television and and a computer being worshipped by a court full of eyeballs and red ghosty boys. Let's see. I mean, Eva could give more feedback. Yeah. Yeah. Well, in my head, I thought of an evil software thing, but it never took it over the top. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's why the game is called My Computer Wants to Eat Me. But I'm also still kind of convinced that that's not even what the story is about. Like, I think it's going to take me some convincing for the story to not be about the kid and his grandfather. I think you might have accidentally, whether you meant it or not, I think you might have accidentally wrote yourself into there. This game is also Silent Hill 4, but an RPG maker. I don't know. I never played it. I've never played any Silent Hill game. I've watched it be played, but I'm much too scared for that. Yeah, so I noticed that because of the render distance. The render distance is quite interesting. It actually is really foreboding. Like not being able to see very far actually ended up being fucking scary. My automatic assumption is that the family dynamic relates to the horror elements. It has to, right? Like we're so immediately treated to the father being this absolutely fucking terrifying monster that's just outside the door that like when he says we need to go home before curfew ends, it sounds like a building is falling down. Right? Like that to me is so over the top that it could not be anything other than intentional. Even if it was unintentional. Because again, I return to my refrain. We intuit stories better than we write them. And when you're making that sound effect and you're sitting there and you're clicking through, you're like, it's just not goddamn loud enough. And then you just crank it up and you blows your eardrums out and you're like, perfect. And you put it in the game and you forget about it, you know? And then 6 months later, you're like, Jesus, that's loud. But I think I don't know. I don't think I'm too far off in my interpretation so far. I'm very interested to see how the world starts to fall apart. Because I'm right? Like I'm definitely not wrong about that. The world, the real world starts to fall apart. Quote unquote. Surreal Stream #1 is a success. I mean, I feel like I didn't say much different shit. Like, did I talk about? I guess I did talk a little bit more about what surrealism ends up doing, which is being weirdly more literal than non-surrealism. But like, I feel like that a lot of that is quite self-evident, right? The grandpa thing may be a part of my self-inserting or callback to when Gramps taught you to play dice and fight aliens and star dice. Totally. All of those things are also my experience. My grandfather definitely taught me to play dice and fight aliens and star dice. And he did not just tell me to go out and shovel potatoes on his farm. That's not what my grandfather did. I feel that he was the mentor, wise old man archetype. I don't think that the grandfather is developed enough. The grandfather is just not developed enough to be a character. That's why it's like kind of a stand-in for the emotional state of the character. Like, we understand, he serves as the backstory for the character. We understand why the character cares about the computer, why the character cares about. But like, noting this particular relationship with his grandfather says a lot about who he is. Right? He does respect his elders. He hates his father, or he fears his father immensely. But he doesn't seem to have a problem with his mom. So it's not like, it's not that's why I said it's not necessarily like an anti-elder thing. It's like an anti-authority thing. Fathers are well-known symbols of authority. Grandfathers are not well-known symbols of authority. One of my short stories was actually very much about making a grandfather a symbol of authority, and it was kind of weird. But I don't know. I just think grandfathers are quite interesting. I'm just trying to think of what else I want to say about this. Because yeah, I can't escape that as being the emotional crux of the narrative. Because largely, the rest of the emotions in the narrative have been tied to other things which are not necessarily super narrative driven. I tried to avoid the anti-authoritarian interpretation and just lost myself in hoarding cookies. Yeah. That's possible. I don't know. I can't. But it's also my job to do this. I mean, it's not my job. It's my random pseudo hobby to like get on camera and analyze narrative in ludic form. But a lot of the narrative ended up taking a back seat to being ludic, which I appreciate. I like that because it leaves open interpretation, right? So realism in games is something that we're probably just going to have to talk about more in depth, because that's why I was asking questions like, did you program the walking to be intentionally like bad? Like, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean it like, it doesn't, I don't feel like I'm playing Assassin's Creed, even though that game has bad movement, but you get what I mean. Like, it's pretty clunky. But at some points it actually felt like it was intentionally clunky. There's a mini game that shits all over minimum wage jobs. Okay. Anyway, I actually got to go. We got to take the dog out. So, yeah, we'll return to this next week, and I won't do such a long preamble next time. Anyway, thank you all for coming today, and yeah, we'll go out on that note. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, Corbin. I appreciate it.